Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to do a mini deep dive on Metasploit developers. I know a lot of you out there are trying to hire Metasploit developers right now, and it can be tricky finding the right person. So in this deep dive, we're going to go through a few FAQs about Metasploit developers to help clear some things up. And hey, if you need help finding a developer, check out theperfectdeveloper.com. They have a pretty awesome tool called the 5 questions that really can help simplify your search.
Yeah, it's a great tool for finding all kinds of developers.
Okay, so let's jump in. For those of us who don't live and breathe cybersecurity, what do Metasploit developers actually do?
It's a good question. They basically spend their days looking for weaknesses in computer systems.
Okay, so they're like ethical hackers.
Exactly. But they do a lot more than just hack into systems. They also develop exploits.
Exploits.
Exploits are like little programs that target specific vulnerabilities.
So it's like they're finding the weak spots and then figuring out how to exploit them.
Right. And they also develop modules for Metasploit, which are like plugins that add new functionality.
So it's not just about using Metasploit. It's about like understanding it inside and out and even contributing to its evolution.
Exactly. And Metasploit developers don't just work with Metasploit.
Oh, okay. What else do they use?
Well, they often work with other cybersecurity tools as well, like network scanners, web vulnerability scanners, and other penetration testing frameworks, things like Nmap, for example.
So these developers are like fluent in cybersecurity. And they know how to use all sorts of different tools to protect systems.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So what are some of the key skills that we should be looking for when we're hiring a Metasploit developer?
That's a good question. Well, obviously, technical skills are important.
Yeah, like what?
Well, the most important technical skill is proficiency in Ruby.
Ruby.
Yeah, Ruby is the programming language that Metasploit is written in.
Oh, so like I need to get a Ruby dictionary?
Haha. Yeah, I guess you could see that. But they also need a deep understanding of penetration testing methodologies. And they need to know about different types of vulnerabilities, like buffer overflows and SQL injection.
Wow, that's getting pretty technical.
But soft skills are also really important.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Those are important in any job, but especially in a field like this.
Especially in this field.
Yeah.
Because Metasploit developers are dealing with sensitive information. So they need to have a strong ethical compass.
So we need to find someone who's not going to use their powers for evil.
Right. And they also need to be good communicators because they'll need to be able to explain complex security findings to both technical and non-technical audiences.
Okay, so it's not just about being a tech whiz. It's about being able to communicate clearly and being able to think strategically. So where can we find these digital superheroes?
Well, that's a great question, and we'll dive into that in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so stay tuned. We'll be right back with more on finding and hiring the perfect Metasploit developer. And remember, you can always check out theperfectdeveloper.com if you're feeling overwhelmed by the whole process. They have a ton of resources on their website, and the 5 questions tool can really help you narrow down your search.
Welcome back. So where do we find these awesome Metasploit developers?
Yeah, where do they hang out?
Well, a good place to start is online on freelance platforms.
Oh, like Upwork and those sites.
Exactly. You can find developers there who specialize in Metasploit, and you can usually see their portfolios and read reviews from other clients.
So that's good. You can get a sense of their experience.
Yeah, it's a good way to get to know them before you even contact them.
What about like cybersecurity communities?
Oh, yeah, that's another great place to look. Places like GitHub and Reddit.
GitHub, that's where all the code is, right?
Right. It's like a giant library of code.
And Reddit, that's where everybody argues about everything.
Well, yeah, there's that. But there are also a lot of really good subreddits dedicated to cybersecurity.
Oh, so you can find people who are really passionate about Metasploit.
Exactly. And you can also find people who are looking for jobs.
Oh, okay. So we've got freelance platforms and cybersecurity communities. What about, the traditional job boards?
Oh, yeah, those are still a good option. Sites like Indeed and LinkedIn.
Yeah, they've got tons of cybersecurity jobs.
Right, and you can usually filter by specific skills, like Metasploit.
Okay, so we've got a few different places to look online. What about offline?
Well, security conferences are a great way to meet people.
Oh, yeah, those can be fun.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun, and you can learn a lot, and you can also meet potential candidates face-to-face.
So it's a good way to network.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered where to find Metasploit developers. Now let's talk about money. What's the salary range for these folks?
Well, it really depends on location.
Oh, yeah, of course.
In the US, for example, you're probably looking at a salary range of $90,000 to $160,000 per year.
Wow, that's a pretty wide range.
Yeah, it depends on experience, and it also depends on where in the US you are.
What about other regions?
Well, Europe is a bit lower. You're probably looking at 60,000 to 120,000 euros per year.
And what about Asia?
Asia is even lower, probably $30,000 to $80,000 per year.
Wow, so there's quite a bit of variation.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a sense of the salary range. Now let's talk about different hiring models, like full-time, part-time, in-house, outsourcing. What are the pros and cons of each model?
Well, full-time employment is the most traditional model. It's a good option if you have a lot of ongoing cybersecurity needs and you want someone who's dedicated to your team.
Okay, so it's good for stability and consistency.
Exactly.
What about part-time?
Part-time employment is a good option if you need someone on a more flexible basis.
So like for short-term projects or something?
Exactly.
Okay, and what about in-house versus outsourcing?
That's a good question. In-house is good if you have very sensitive data.
Yeah.
And you need to have complete control over your security.
So you want to keep everything in-house.
Right.
What about outsourcing?
Outsourcing is a good option if you don't have the resources to build an in-house team, or if you need specialized expertise that you don't have in-house.
So it can be more cost-effective.
Exactly.
Okay, so there are a lot of different factors to consider when choosing a hiring model.
Yeah. It really depends on your specific needs.
And your budget.
And your long-term goals.
Okay, this is all great information. I'm learning a lot about hiring Metasploit developers.
Good.
What else should we be thinking about when making this decision?
That's a great question for part 3.
Stay tuned. We'll be back with more insight into finding the perfect Metasploit developer for your needs. And as always, remember to visit theperfectdeveloper.com. They have a great tool called the 5 Questions that can really simplify your search. Okay, so we're back. We've talked about what Metasploit developers do, where to find them, how much they cost.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground.
What else do we need to know before we hire one?
Well, there are a few other things to keep in mind when you're deciding between in-house and outsourcing.
Okay, like what?
Well, like project management can be more difficult with an outsourced team,
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
especially if they're in a different time zone
Right.
or if they have different communication styles.
And then there's cultural fit too.
Yeah, you want to make sure that the developer you hire is a good fit for your company culture.
So it's not just about their technical skills.
Right.
It's about finding someone who's going to be a good fit for your team.
And for your company.
That's a good point. So where can we go for help with all of this?
Well, theperfectdeveloper.com has a lot of great resources on their website.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They have articles and guides on different hiring models. And they also have the 5 Questions tool.
Right. We've talked about that. They can really help you narrow down your search.
Exactly.
Okay. So before we wrap things up, I have one more question for you.
Okay.
The cybersecurity landscape is changing so quickly.
It is.
How do you think the growing demand for cybersecurity professionals is going to impact the future of Metasploit development?
That's a great question. I think we're going to see a lot more automation in the future.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think we're going to see Metasploit tools that can learn from past attacks and proactively identify emerging threats.
So it's almost like AI for cybersecurity.
Exactly.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the role of a Metasploit developer is going to become even more important in the future.
I think so, yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us for this mini deep dive on Metasploit developers.
It was my pleasure.
We hope you learned a few things about these amazing professionals, and we hope you're feeling more confident about hiring one for your team. If you're still feeling lost, be sure to check out theperfectdeveloper.com. They have a ton of resources that can help you find the perfect Metasploit developer for your needs. And remember, keep diving deep.